Today, we're sharing a story that begins with prejudice, but ends with an unforgettable lesson about respect, resilience, and the importance of looking beyond appearances. It's a tale that highlights the strength of a family in the face of discrimination, and the surprising twist that left everyone on a luxury flight speechless. Our story takes place on a first-class flight from New York to Los Angeles. Olivia, a well-dressed black woman in her mid-30s, was traveling with her two young children, 6-year-old Liam and 8-year-old Maya. Olivia had planned this trip for months, wanting to give her kids a special experience. It wasn't just a regular trip, it was a celebration of her husband Jonathan's promotion, a milestone that had been years in the making. Jonathan, a successful and respected businessman, couldn't join them on this leg of the trip due to a last-minute meeting. However, he arranged for them to fly in business class, ensuring they would travel in comfort. For Olivia, this was a meaningful gesture, a reminder of the life they had worked so hard to build together. As the family boarded the plane, their excitement was palpable. Liam and Maya were thrilled about the spacious seats, the fancy meals, and the in-flight entertainment. Olivia smiled as she settled them in, her heart full as she watched her kids soak in the experience. However, their excitement was short-lived. Seated a few rows behind them was Richard, a wealthy businessman in his late 40s. Richard was the kind of person who believed his money gave him the right to behave however he pleased. He had grown accustomed to being treated as though the world revolved around him, and he didn't hide his disdain for anyone he deemed out of place in his privileged circles. The moment Olivia and her children entered the business class cabin, Richard's demeanor changed. He shot them a disapproving look, his lips tightening as if their mere presence was an affront to his sensibilities. Throughout the boarding process, he muttered comments under his breath loud enough for Olivia to hear. "Looks like they let just anyone in here these days," he sneered to the flight attendant, while gesturing vaguely toward Olivia and her kids. The attendant gave a tight smile and politely ignored the comment, but Olivia's face burned with embarrassment. She chose to focus on her children, determined not to let this man ruin their trip. As the flight took off, Richard's behavior only escalated. He began making passive-aggressive remarks about people not knowing how to behave in business class, deliberately aimed at Olivia and her kids. When Mia accidentally bumped her drink and spilled a little water on her tray table, Richard rolled his eyes dramatically and called for the flight attendant. "Can someone clean this up? Some people clearly don't belong in this section," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. Olivia clenched her jaw, doing her best to stay calm. She knew her kids were watching her, and she wanted to set an example of grace and composure, even in the face of such blatant hostility. But the final straw came during the meal service. As the flight attendant served lunch, Liam, excited to try something new, asked a lot of questions about the menu. Richard groaned audibly. "This is business class, not a daycare. Can you keep your kids under control?" he barked, glaring at Olivia. At this point, other passengers began to notice Richard's behavior. Some exchanged uneasy glances, while others whispered among themselves. Olivia took a deep breath and responded firmly but politely. "My children are perfectly well behaved. Please don't speak to us that way." Richard scoffed, shaking his head. "Well, maybe if their father were around, they'd learn some manners," he retorted, smirking as though he had delivered a clever blow. What Richard didn't realize was that Jonathan, Olivia's husband, was very much around, just not in the way Richard expected. You see, Jonathan wasn't just a successful businessman, he was also one of the airline's top-tier investors. As fate would have it, Jonathan had decided to join the flight last minute and was sitting quietly in the first-class cabin, catching up on emails. When one of the flight attendants recognized Jonathan, she informed him about the incident in business class. Concerned, Jonathan immediately went to check on his family. As he approached, he overheard Richard's latest comment and saw the look of frustration on Olivia's face. He knew he had to intervene, not with anger, but with authority. Jonathan walked up to Olivia and greeted her and the kids warmly, giving them each a reassuring hug. Turning to Richard, he smiled, though there was a steely edge to his demeanor. "Is there a problem here?" he asked calmly. Richard looked at Jonathan, confused and annoyed. "Who are you?" he snapped. Jonathan straightened, his tone cool but firm. "I'm Jonathan Daniels. My wife and children don't deserve to be treated this way. And by the way, I also happen to be a major investor in this airline." The color drained from Richard's face as the realization hit him. Passengers around them began murmuring, and the flight attendants looked relieved as they stepped back, letting Jonathan handle the situation. Jonathan didn't stop there. He turned to the flight attendant and asked, "Has this passenger been causing problems for the crew or other guests?" The attendant nodded hesitantly, clearly trying to remain professional. Jonathan addressed Richard directly. "Your behavior is unacceptable, not just to my family, but to everyone here. This is a shared space, and basic respect is the least you can offer." Richard stammered, trying to justify his actions. I didn't mean any harm. I just think people should know how to act in business class." Jonathan's expression hardened. Respect has nothing to do with where you're sitting or how much money you have. It's about how you treat people. At this point, the flight attendant stepped in, informing Richard that if his behavior continued, he would be reported to the airline's management. Richard slumped back in his seat, avoiding eye contact with anyone for the remainder of the flight. As for Olivia and her kids, Jonathan's presence turned what could have been a ruined trip into a moment of empowerment and love. Liam and Maya beamed with pride as their father stood up for their family, and Olivia felt a renewed sense of gratitude for her husband's unwavering support. By the time the plane landed, many of the other passengers made a point to commend Jonathan and Olivia for how they handled the situation. One woman even told Olivia, "You're raising your kids to be better than people like him, and that's what really matters." The story of that flight became a viral sensation after another passenger shared it online. It sparked conversations about prejudice, privilege, and the importance of standing up against injustice. For Olivia and Jonathan, it was a reminder that love and dignity are stronger than any act of hatred. Thank you for watching, and remember, always treat people with kindness and respect. You never know who they are or the battles they've faced. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this. Until next time, take care and stand up for what's right.